Hello guys, this is Lowell Stitches. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be learning how to make this beautiful palazzo pleated trouser. Let's get right into it. So what we're going to start with is the front. Currently I have about 15 inches on fold, and how I got that is your hip measurement divided by 4. Whatever you have, you're going to add extra 5 inches allowance. If you want yours to be bigger than mine, you can add as much as 7 extra inches allowance for it to have that fullness, even 8 inches allowance. Just note that it will be very big. So I have 15. The fabric I have on fold is 15 inches. When you open it up, it's going to be 30 inches. So we're going to start by measuring our vertical measurement. We're going to start by measuring our vertical measurement now. But before we do that, I'm just going to mark our setting line, which is half inches, and which is also going to serve as our sewing allowance. So we're going to start with our vertical measurement. The band we'll be adding to this trouser is going to be 2 inches. We're going to be adding a band to it. So now we're going to be minusing that 2 inches. I'm going to be placing my measuring tape on my cloth like this. It's going to start from 2 inches because of the 2 inches band that we're adding. So you place your 2 inches there on that starting line. Then we'll match our crotch line, which is your hip measurement divided by 4. But because it's a free trouser, we are adding 2 extra inches. In fact, add 2.5 inches allowance. The reason is because you want your trouser to be very free, so please add 2.5 inches allowance. I added 2 inches allowance for this, but ended up cutting it down a bit because I want it to be very free. So you're going to mark your crotch line, and then the next thing we're going to be marking is our hip measurement. How do we do that? From your crotch line, you're going to be measuring up by 2 inches, and that is how you're going to get your hip measurement. So for the crotch line, my hip is 39 divided by 4, which is 9.75 plus 2.5. That will give you around 12.5. So that should, when you're using your own measurement, you should add that 2.5. So I'm just going to connect the lines for my hip. You're going to come up from your crotch line to your hip. You're going to come up by 2 inches to get your hip line. The next vertical measurement we'll be getting now is the full length of your trouser. Remember, you're going to be placing your band from that 2 inches on your starting line because of the band we're going to be adding. So now you're going to be getting your vertical measurement as the full length. The full length I'm working with is 42 inches plus 2 inches extra sewing allowance for the hemming of the edges. Do you get? Making everything 44 inches. So that's what I've measured. So if we're going to be minusing the 2 inches for band, we're still going to be having around 42 inches. Do you get? So now the next thing we're going to do, on your crotch line, you're going to be measuring your crotch extension. To get crotch extension for the back is your hip measurement divided by 20. So I have 39 divided by 20. That is around 1.9 inches. 1.9 inches. So I'm just going to measure that from my crotch line up to my waistline, and I'm going to connect the line like this. I hope you understand it. You measure for your front crotch extension, it is your hip measurement divided by 20. Mine is 39 divided by 20. I have 1.9 inches. So we're going to make a curve. Just going to come like I measure 1 inches upward, and then you use your curve ruler to just make that curve out. Just you have to be patient with it and do it properly. So here you go. We have our crotch curve and extension now. So on the waistline, we're going to be coming down by half inches, and this is to reduce the bulkiness in your crotch line at the front, so it won't look bulky. So you're going to connect back from the hip line, that's the waist at the hip side, back to these half inches that you came down by. So just try to use your ruler to do that. So we're not going to be cutting that out now. We're going to be cutting after we have cut the back for the back of our trouser. So for now, we're going to leave it like this. Come to the waistline at the hip side. You can come in by 1.5 inches or 1 inches, or you leave it like that if you don't want. I just want to give it a little shape. So I'm going to be connecting from that 1.5 inches to my hip line just to give it a little shape. I hope you understand. And now we're going to cut it out. If you notice, you see pins around the fabric. I use the pin to just hold my fabric in place. So now we're just going to cut all of this out. If you need to use a pin to hold it in place, please do. and it is for the sake of this tutorial, that is why I'm cutting it on this table. It's quite small. If you have, you can cut it on the floor if you want to. So now it's time for us to cut the back of the trouser. It's quite easy. I already have my trouser on fold and I've placed my front pattern on it. So what you're going to do is, whatever you had for the front, add like 4 to 5 inches to it. Do you get? So for the front, I added 15, I had 15 inches on fold. So for the back, my fabric is 19 inches on fold. Do you understand? So make sure you have about 5 to 6 inches extra. So place it like this. Make sure you have allowance for both on the hip side and on the crotch side. Do you get? You have allowance on that on both sides. Also on the upper part, make sure you have about 2 extra inches allowance on the upper part at the waist. Okay, so the first measurement we'll be getting is our crotch extension for the back, which is your hip divided by 10. 39 divided by 10 is 3.9 inches. So you're going to be starting your measurement from this point. Place your 3.9 inches on it like this and measure what you have. So it's going to be, you're going to measure the 3.9 inches. So you're just going to connect the line like this. So after doing that, connect it properly. The next thing we're going to be doing is to add allowance on our hip line. We're going to be adding 1 inches allowance downward from our hip line. So what I have down here is up to 1 inches. I don't need to measure anymore. I'm just going to use my scissors to divide it into two. So we are going to be adding extra allowance on your waistline at the crotch at the crotch line. Do you get? So it depends on how big your bum is. So I'm just going to be adding 1.2 inches allowance upward just to make sure that your trousers sit properly. If you are working with a bigger bum, you can add up to 2 inches. Just stop at 2 inches. I think that should be enough. Then you mark back to your waist. You see why I did not cut that half inches that I deducted, because I want to measure to get accurate measurements. Do you get? So you measure upward like that. You can use 1.2, 1.5, 2 inches as much as you want, and then you connect it back to your hip your waistline. So I'm just going to cut out the half inches that I deducted for the front waistline. So I'm just going to connect this properly first. So after doing that, we're going to come to this crotch extension line. We measured 3.9 inches. We are going to be removing that 1.9 inches. That means you have like 2 inches extra. So I'm going to be measuring 1.5 inches on this other side, on this crotch extension side. I'm going to measure 1.5 inches and connect from your back crotch extension downward to the down part of your trouser. So I'm just going to be using my pin to hold this in place, because at this point I don't want anything to move. I want my measurement to be very accurate. So I'm just going to measure the 1.5 inches we're adding. I'm going to measure it up to the down part. So you have to measure from your crotch extension, add 1.5 inches and measure up to the down part and connect the lines like this. So after connecting the lines, you're just going to cut it out now. Easy peasy, right? So here's our bare trouser. It is already making sense. Now we have our front. I'm just going to write it, and we have our back too. So now the first thing we're going to do is to sew it by the crotch. We're going to be sewing it by half inches. We're going to sew it like this for the back together, and we're also going to be sewing the front together. I'm going to do that and show you how it is. So now I've sewn both the front and the back on the crotch. So now what we're going to be doing is our waist measurement. The waist I'm working with is 28. We're going to be dividing it into two first. 28 divided by 2, we have 14. So 14 for the front part and 14 for the back part. So for this front part, remember that this trouser is into two. So we are going to be dividing that 14 on equal side. That's 7 on one part of the trouser and 7 on other part of the trouser. So we're also going to be adding 1 extra inches on both side of the trouser. That means logically we're adding 2 extra inches when we are joining it together. So instead of 7 on one part and 7 on the other part, we're going to be having 8 on one part and 8 on the other part, because we're going to be joining by 1 inches. I hope this is very clear enough. So that is the measurement we are looking for currently. On one side, on the right, we're looking for 8 inches, and on the other side, we're looking for 8 inches. So now what we have currently is obviously bigger than 8 inches. So that is what is going to guide us to get our pleats. So for you to know where you're going to start your pleats from, just divide your nipple to nipple by 2. Mine is 8 divided by 2, we have 4. So I have marked out this 4. Let me just mark it again. So we're starting, we want our pleat to start from this side. So you're just going to, I want my pleat to face right. So you're just going to fold it in, and you keep on measuring till you get your 8 inches. Do you get on one side? So just fold it. Just use your discernment. Try to fold it. Then measure and make sure that you have exactly 8 inches, which I have already. So I'm going to be pinning that. Do you get? Let me show you. When you measure it, you have 8 inches on one side. So we want to also measure that 8 inches on this other side. So we're just going to first of all measure the point where we want our pleat to start, and then you're just going to fold it in like this and use your tape rule to measure and make sure that you have exactly 8 inches. I hope you understand. So I'm done now, and I have a total of 8 inches on both sides. When you join everything together, we have about 16 inches. So I'm going to be using my machine to top stitch just to secure the pleat. I'm also going to be repeating this same method on my back. So as you can see, I'm also making the pleats for the back. It's still the same process I followed for the front. That is why I increased the speed, just to reduce the time. So you're just going to repeat the same thing, and we're going to sew it. Okay, so this is it. I have top stitched it on the waist side, and I've also given it a very good iron. So please iron before you begin to join. I've done the same too for the back and the front. So the next thing we're going to be doing is to cut out our pockets. Remember that the trouser has side pockets, so that is exactly what we're going to do now. So you fold your front trouser this way and make sure it is equal, and then you come in by 2.5 inches. I don't want my trouser the pocket to be too deep. That's the curve that is coming inside. So you're going to come down by 6 inches. So what we're going to do is I'm going to be using my ruler to just connect a line from that 2.5 inches I came in by to the 2.6 inches. If you want to give it a little curve, you can do that, but this is how I want mine to be, and then you're going to cut it out. So after doing this, we need to cut out the inner pocket, which I have already done. So this is the pocket. So I have 4 pieces of this. I cut out 4 pieces. Let me just explain how I did it. The width is 8 inches and the length is 11 inches. So it's basically a rectangle. Then I just gave a curve at the edge like this, and we have 4 pieces of this. Remember I said we have 4 pieces, so we're just going to take out 2 pieces first and work with the inner pocket for the front. So you place the straight part like this, and then you place your pocket and your front trouser on it like this, just to get the shape that you made on your trouser. Do you get? So I'm just going to use my chalk to trace the line and cut it out. After cutting, we're going to be sewing to the front, which I'm going to show you. Remember that we're only cutting the front part of the trouser. Please don't cut the back. So we're going to take one of the inner pocket, the one we cut out the shape of the pocket. So we're going to take it and make it match. You know, the thing is matching already. So you're going to place it like this, and then you're going to sew down to the down part. That's where the slant ends. So after sewing to where the slants end, you're going to notch it with your scissors. This is so that your pockets will lay flat on on your fabric. Do you get? So that is why we're doing all of this. You can also cut out excess allowance if you wish to. And after doing this, we're going to be top stitching it. So you make sure that your allowance is on that inner pocket, and then you top stitch on the inner pocket part of the trouser. Just watch as I do it. So after sewing, this is how your pocket is going to look from inside. Of course, you're going to give it a very good ironing. So this is how it's going to look. So you're going to carry another piece. This time around is the one that we didn't cut. We didn't cut. That's the other two that we didn't cut. You're going to place it and make sure that the curve side match with the one that you've already attached to your main trouser. I hope you understand. And then you're going to sew. You're going to pick it up like this, pick it like this, and then you're going to sew. So as I said, you're going to pick it up like this, and you're going to sew from the upper part down to the other side. Just watch as I do it. Just make sure that it is equal. Make sure your pocket is equal. So this is it. It is not equal here, so I'm just going to trim out this excess here. So now after sewing it, you're going to turn it this way, turn it like this. Just watch carefully as I do it. Honestly, if you watch this properly, then you'll be able to get it. So turn it this way. Whatever we have inside, you're going to be top stitching the waist part. So you're going to, we joined the other pockets to the one we attached to the trouser. So you're going to be top stitching it by the waist. So before you sew, make sure that everything is equal. Arrange your trouser properly. Make sure that the pocket is matching with your main trouser, both by the hip and by the upper waist part. And then you're going to just top stitch it this way. So as I said, arrange it by the side to make sure everything is very much well aligned on this hip side. And we're going to also top stitch it on this hip side. If you haven't liked my video, what are you waiting for? Please like and drop a comment and share. So this is how it is. You see how beautiful it is already looking like a pocket already. So repeat the same process on the other pocket. So this is it, guys. You see how beautiful it is. I did that for both the right and the left pocket. So now we're going to be joining the back to the front. Okay, so this is it. You place your back on the front. We measured everything properly, so it's looking equal at the waist, but it's not going to be equal on the down part. So what you're going to do first is to sew. You're going to be joining by 1 inch, of course. You can also remeasure your waist measurement just to make sure everything is accurate. So you're going to be sewing by 1 inch on both of the hip. I hope you understand. So I'm just going to pin this so that I can easily illustrate. So you're going to be joining it by the waist and also on this other side. Also, because we're going to be adding a zip to the waist on the right side, we're not going to be we're not going to be closing both sides. So on the right side of the trouser, I'm going to measure 6 inches. I'm going to plus the band, which is 2 inches, making a total of 8 inches for where we're going to place the zip. So we're going to be running a loose stitch to that 6 inches point. Then we're going to be sewing a normal stitch and sew it down. This is because we're going to be losing it to attach our zip to it. So after sewing on both hip side, you're going to come to the crotch like this. Make sure it is equal, and then you sew by 1/2 inches downward on both sides. Okay, so guys, I've sewn it by the hip and everything. You see how beautiful, very beautiful the pocket is looking already. So this is how everything is. And I left out the inches for the allowance for the zip. So now we're going to be measuring the waistline, the round waistline measurement. The main fabric, you're going to be measuring it round. And this is because we need the measurements we're going to cut for our band rather. So after measuring, I have about 31 inches, and that is what we're going to be cutting for our band. So I have my fabric on fold already. So we have 31 inches round. So since my fabric is on fold, we're going to be dividing it by 2. So that's going to be about 15.5 inches. So I'm just going to make it 16 inches just to be safe. So remember I said our band is 2 inches. So this fabric we're going to be measuring 5 inches. When we fold it, it's going to be 2.5 inches. So half inches is going to be for sewing allowance, then 2 inches is going to be the main band. So that is just how you're going to measure it, and then I'm going to cut it out. Okay, so this is what we have, 2.5 inches on fold. So the next thing we're going to do is to iron an interface. Iron an interface on your band, please. You can use a gum stay. I think they call it gum stay or air stay. Depend on what you want. So I'm just going to be adding an air stay to it. And after doing that, on fold like this, you're going to be attaching it on your waist round. Okay, so guys, this is it. I have attached the band to it. Please do well to overlock all the edges just to give the very neat finishing so it won't look rough. So I'm going to be fixing my zip to the side. I'm going to be fixing an invisible zipper to the side. And after doing this, just fold your hemline, that's the edge of your trouser, measure your main measurement and fold it, and that is it, guys. Very easy to make. Please do not forget to like, share, drop a comment. Please subscribe if you haven't done so. So I have 2 inches allowance left. The length of my trouser is 42, so I'm going to be folding it in after I've overlocked it by 2 inches, and then I'm going to be using an hemming gum on it.